Hello, and welcome back to Random Vids. So, something that I've been doing ever since August, I want to say? August or July of last year, where I like to talk about some of my absolute favorite movies from some sort of genre. So, back in the first one we did, obviously, we talked about my favorite Disney movies. And then a month or two later, then we talked about my favorite Pixar movies. And then a few months ago, we just talked about my favorite Illumination movies. So, yeah, I know, a lot of movies. Well, a genre that I didn't cover yet was, of course, another really well-known one. DreamWorks. DreamWorks definitely has its ups and downs, although I feel like I feel like Pixar and definitely Disney are really starting to run dry in a way. Like Disney, like come on, really? What is all this like with all the modern Disney movie stuff? Like a lot of it is at best tolerable and at worst garbage and lazy. Like is this something Walt Disney would really want for the company? Stuff like Wish and then all of these Disney live action remakes, and then of course you can't forget one of the newest ones, Snow White. I've never seen it and probably never will. I've heard so much negative things about it that I don't care to get into the drama about it. Anywho, yeah, Disney has been Disney lately, and it hasn't been going really well. And Pixar, kind of the same way, but at least Pixar, I feel like they're still at least trying to give us some decent movies, even if they are just sequels. But, you know what? I feel like Pixar at least is still somewhat trying. So unfortunately, I feel like Disney is really starting to go downhill, like, big time. We really need someone new at Disney. Please and thank you. Sincerely, every single Disney fan. So that's why things like Illuminations I kind of like, because, yeah, they may not be as well known as Disney and stuff, but at least they give you something new to, like, experience. And DreamWorks, same thing. Although DreamWorks, because it is owned by Disney, it does have some of those moments where it's like, I could see some modern Disney trying to go in there. But DreamWorks is still a very, like, interesting genre. And I figured for today, there isn't too many DreamWorks movies that I have seen, unlike the past three. So this one I'm going to lower down to only 5. What are my top 5 favorite DreamWorks movies? Because like I said, I haven't seen all of them. I've seen it probably like under half of them, honestly. Yeah, DreamWorks has definitely been an interesting company. Some movies really good, others not so much. Anywho, with that, let's get to number 5, which is Trolls Band Together. I feel like this movie has a lot of mixed feelings. Some people, like me, really enjoy the movie, and to see the Trolls franchise kind of grow and just, kind of get better as it goes on is sort of. Other people just do not like the Trolls franchise at all. And, I mean, I could totally see why. Like, some of these ones are definitely going to be hot takes, and I feel like this is one of them. This, and I think a decent amount of those honorable mentions are going to be in the hot take category, too. I know when people see the movie Trolls, they're like, really? This over something like Shrek or Kung Fu Panda, How to Train Your Dragon? Like, man, those are way better. But yet you put Trolls Band Together at number 5. Well, like I said before, I haven't seen all these DreamWorks movies. I've only seen at least like 25% of them, I want to say. I've never seen any of the How to Train Your Dragons. I've only seen the third Kung Fu Panda. I've never seen any of the others, not that I remember at least. So, no, those ones are not going to be on my list, spoiler alert, because I haven't seen them. So, that doesn't mean they're not good, I just never saw them. So, what should I put on the list instead? Well, what about a movie I enjoy? So for this movie, it focuses on Branch's, I guess, family, and how he's in a band, and he has to now reunite with his long-lost brothers to save one of his other brothers from the villains who definitely steal the show, who I don't remember their names. But they're definitely interesting villains, and probably the best villains out of the movies. Now, I haven't seen Trolls World Tour yet. That's the one that's in the middle of this one and the original. So, probably ain't going to be I'm not going to be talking much about Trolls World Tour because I've never seen it. It came out during COVID. What a horrible time for that movie to come out. But anywho, the villains are really great in this movie. Like, they're not just one-dimensional. They're not boring. No, they actually have some personality, how they became villains. And, of course, they're brother and sister, so that makes them really fun as well. The music in this movie is really good, too. Like, I love all the different, like, what's the word? Like, almost like mashup of a bunch of different songs kind of put together into one. I noticed a lot of 80s songs, too. And if it's going to be a movie with a bunch of 80s songs, then you're definitely going to get my vote, because I love 80s music. And I've noticed this movie has a lot of 80s songs in it, which is really nice. Not just that, but I feel like the soundtrack in general is really good. There's not really a song that gets too annoying. Now, obviously, yeah, this movie is really good and all, but is there any negatives I have about this movie? Well, I feel like it gets a little silly at times, if you know what I mean. Like Branch and his... I don't even know what you want to call it. I guess the joke that Branch is the youngest, so then that's just kind of the running gag throughout the whole movie, which I thought that was kind of boring. And I was like, alright, yeah, haha, that was funny. He's the youngest, yeah, we know. But now he's an adult now, but then they always remember, they're joking around of how they could pick him up and stuff. And then later on in the movie, he ends up sucking on a pacifier. Okay. That was probably the strangest part of the movie, in my opinion. Although it wasn't really long at all. But it's strange. Some of the designs of the characters are definitely strange, too. Not bad, just strange and different. Like, definitely a lot different than the original Trolls, that's for sure. What else? Also, what's his name? What is his name? The baby troll with a deep voice? Guy Diamond's son or something like that? I don't know. Like I said, this was probably something that happened in World Tour that I didn't see. Honestly, he definitely is a little annoying at times. The fact that he comes along on Branch and Puppy's quest is just like, oh great. I can already tell you this is going to be a screen hogger of a character. He's going to try to be the comic relief character, but it's just not going to work. And unfortunately, I don't think it worked well with Guy Diamond's son, or whatever his name is. I don't remember. You can definitely tell he was designed to be kind of that comic relief screen hogger in a way. And sometimes the comic relief character is done super well, like Kronk from The Emperor's New Groove. Other times, they're a big screen hog, and they just don't work well at all. And unfortunately, that's how I feel about this little dude. But those are some just little nitpicks of this movie. Overall, it's really great, and it's nice seeing the Bergens again. I don't know if they were in the World Tour or not, but, you know, it's a great movie, and I know no one's going to agree with me on this one, because they're going to be like, Kung Fu Panda, Trolls, or not Trolls, Kung Fu Panda, How to Train Your Dragon, not this silly mess. But personally, I think it's a great DreamWorks movie. So with that, let's move to number 4, which is Shrek. Don't worry, this is a movie I watched from DreamWorks. You're probably wondering, dude, why are you doing this video? Just watch the other movies, then do this video. Nah, that's not happening. I'm too busy. I don't have time to watch all the How to Train Your Dragons and all the Kung Fu Pandas and stuff. Anywho, Shrek 1. Okay, this is a series, not a series, but half of a series that I watched, I guess, if you want to call it that. It's literally half. I've only seen the original 2. I've never seen the 3rd and 4th. I've heard negative things about the 3rd and 4th one, so there's that. I probably will eventually watch them in the future, but as of now, I've only seen the original 2. And just recently, back in, I want to say, October, I recently ended up rewatching the original Shrek as well as the sequel. And, hey, they're both really great movies. Shrek 1. Personally, as a kid, I never found this big, ugly ogre fun. I never found this movie just really insanely fun. I found it just weird and just not for me. As a kid, of course. As an adult, that's different. Because now I can actually, follow the story a little bit better. And yeah, Shrek is ugly. Like, I'm gonna be blunt honest. He is just a very interesting design. I don't know how to put it, but it's just like, maybe not uncanny, but also just like, okay, yeah, maybe a little uncanny. Not bad though. And definitely as time goes on, you get more used to the design. It's just something that's kind of like, oh, okay, like this is our main character. Anywho, Shrek, the lonely ogre who lives at his swamp all by himself, until of course he meets goofy old donkey, who's literally the complete opposite of him. Then they go save a princess for our villain of the movie. But then the princess and Shrek start getting feelings for each other. And all of a sudden, now they get married. The end. That's basically Shrek 1 that's basically Shrek in a nutshell. The dynamics between Shrek and Fiona, I think, work really well. Even though he's an ogre and she's a human. So they could have easily made that very weird. But I feel like they made it in a way that it's like, maybe not too weird. I don't know. It's an ogre like in a human. It's just weird. But at least like they gave us the part where Fiona turns into an ogre at night. So she already knows in her head, hey, like if I wind up with Shrek, then I'll just be an ogre forever. Like, okay. Although she isn't really fond of being an ogre, I feel like the fact that she has now the personalities of one and she does turn into one, she doesn't find Shrek all that horrible, I guess. It's almost kind of like Beauty and the Beast. It works in a way where it's not weird, and it just works well, I think. Where, yeah, an animal marrying a human. Alright, anyway, moving on. I'm getting too much off topic. Another thing I really liked about this movie is the soundtrack. The soundtrack is really good. Of course, All Star, which is a very great song. And then they play Believer at the end. That one's another really great one. There's a lot of pretty good songs in Shrek 1. Maybe not quite as memorable as the ones in Shrek 2, but, this one is still a really great movie. And it's a great start to the Shrek franchises. The story is just done so well. And it's fun seeing characters like Shrek and Donkey interact with each other because they're literally complete opposites. And then when Fiona comes around, then it just makes the story even more entertaining. Plus I love how everything is just like nursery rhyme themed. Like there's Pinocchio, there's the 3 blind mice, the 3 bears, you name it. Like it's really interesting, and I love the way that they do it. Maybe not necessarily nursery rhymes, more fairy tales, I guess. But yeah, Shrek 1, definitely a really great movie, and it's definitely one of the best from DreamWorks for sure. So with that, let's move on to number 3, which is Shrek 2. I'm pretty sure most people can agree that Shrek 2 is the best out of the Shrek franchise. And I completely agree. I mean, the original was a great setup to the franchise, and it was a great starter, but man, Shrek 2 just takes that and just makes it even better. Shrek and Fiona are now married, and now it's time to visit Fiona's parents. However, they don't expect her to wind up with an ogre. So, a bunch of awkward, uncomfortable scenes later, the dad ends up getting this fairy godmother to try to hook Fiona up with someone else, aka Prince Charming, I think his name is. Aka the fairy godmother's grandson, which is just hilarious. So, as time goes on, though, Fiona's dad starts warming up to Shrek a bit more and starts realizing what he's doing is wrong. And eventually, Shrek ends up saving the day, saving Fiona from, I guess, this dude that they're trying to hook Fiona up with. And the movie kind of ends. That's Shrek 2 in a nutshell. Man, everything about the original is here, but just done even more better. There's more Shrek and Donkey moments, and even though Shrek is definitely a lot less grumpy in this movie, they're still basically complete opposites. And on top of that, they add another critter to join their adventure, aka Puss in Boots, who is definitely a hilarious character and has his funny one-liners. I love how him and Donkey just don't get along at all at first, but then eventually as the movie goes on, they start getting along, kind of like Shrek and Harold in a way. Interesting how they made that work. Once again, like, the story is just done so well here. There's so many fun moments, and it's even more, like, interesting than the original Shrek. A lot more action scenes, I think, and just overall, I think the storytelling is just done better in this one opposed to the original. And not saying the original's bad, I just think this one has more oomph in it, if you know what I mean. The fairy godmother is a really, really great villain, by the way. She is hilarious. She steals the movie, for sure. And that's another reason why this movie's a lot better, is just because the villain, fairy godmother, she's such an interesting character. Like, she's not just this one-dimensional, I am bad and I will get you type of character. No, she has her interesting moments, and she is funny. She has her funny one-liners, too. And, of course, like the original, this movie has a lot of great songs thrown in there. Like, of course, they bring All Star back. That's basically just the theme of Shrek at this point. And, of course, everyone's favorite scene of the movie, I Need a Hero, which is definitely a really great part. And I love the Live La Vida Loca part at the end, too. Like, it's even better than Believer, I think, from the original. Man, this is just such a really, really good movie, and it's a great, like, sequel to the franchise. Unfortunately, I haven't seen the rest of the Shrek movies. Now, I know there is a fifth one coming out eventually, but I've heard after this one, the movies just start getting more meh. Like, the third one is pretty bad, and the fourth one is better, but not as good as the original two. So, you know what, eventually I'll have to watch them, but we'll see how that works. We'll see. But as of now, Shrek 2 is easily my favorite out of the Shrek movies, and it's one of my absolute favorite Pixar movies. Oh my goodness. One of my favorite DreamWorks movies of all time, for sure. The characters are great, the story is great, the villain is great, the new characters we get introduced to are great, the music's great. It's just a really great movie overall. There's nothing really I have to complain about this movie. So with that, let's move on to number 2, which is Madagascar 3. This over Shrek, how could I? Now, here's the thing. Like I said before, Shrek wasn't necessarily one of my, like, nostalgic movies. It's just one that I was like, it's fine. And then as time went on, I started to like it more because, you know, it's more fun following the story now opposed to just being like, oh, funny guy. Anywho, I was really debating which movie was better, Shrek 2 or Madagascar 3. Because Shrek 2 has a really great story, arguably better than Madagascar 3. But man, Madagascar 3 is such a nostalgia movie to me. I remember watching it in the movie theater the first time, and I remember enjoying it really. I remember enjoying it a lot, and I'm here like, man, this is just a really great Madagascar movie. This is a franchise I've seen everything. The first 3 movies and Penguins. I've seen it all. And overall, like, I think it's a really great series, and I really think it does better as it goes on. Like, the first and second are just fine movies. They definitely have their sandbagging moments, especially in the first one. Actually, you know what? Nah. The second one definitely has a lot of sandbagging moments, too. And it's fine to have more emotional moments, but it just goes on. Luckily for this movie, it's definitely a lot more fast-paced than the other two, and we get a lot of brand new characters. So it starts off with everyone down in Africa, where they left off in the second movie. They're afraid the penguins ain't going to come back, so now they have to go and find them. However, now all of a sudden they have to join a circus to get away from the villain of the movie, who's... I don't even know what you describe her as, but basically, she hunts animals down, and she's really good at her job, that's for sure. Basically, she's the replacement to the old crazy lady from the original 2. And both are really great villains. The old lady is, of course, hilarious as heck, but this new villain is done really well, too. Um, Obviously, though, they don't want anyone from any of the animals from the circus to know that they're phonies and they don't know anything about circus. And as time goes on, they start growing closer bonds with everyone there. Heck, they even end up being the owners, I guess. So, okay then. But then when everyone finds out that they're fake, then they end up going back to the zoo, where the very first movies, where the whole franchise started. But then they end up getting kidnapped, so then everyone from the circus now has to go and save our main characters. Man, it's just such a great way to end the Madagascar series. And I really love all the new characters. Everyone from the circus is really great. Between Stefano and Vitali and Gia. I love the horses, the dogs. Who else do we have? The elephants, I guess, although they're not really in much of the movie. Yeah, basically, all the new characters in this movie are really great. Humans or animals, it doesn't matter. And we get to see a good chunk of all the animals we've grown to know and love, too, between the lemurs, the penguins. We even get to see the monkeys a little bit. It's just a really, really good movie, and it's so nostalgic. Like, in my opinion, it's definitely the best out of the Madagascar series, and most likely my second favorite DreamWorks movie, which a lot of you guys are probably rolling your eyes like, really? Not Kung Fu Panda, not How to Train Your Dragon, this is number 2. Calm down, okay? I know. This ain't everyone's favorite. I know this one is more liked at least than Trolls Band Together, but I know it's not anyone's, like, absolute favorite. And it's not my favorite, but it's just so nostalgic. It's such a great movie. And in my opinion, it's one of my favorites from DreamWorks. Now, before we get to number 1, let's get to a few honorable mentions. Trolls 1. Well, hey, would you look at that? It's the original Trolls movie. This one is really great as well. Although it's been a while since I've seen this movie, it's done really well. The outgoing songbird Poppy is, and then the complete opposite 180 of Branch. They work so great together, and it's a hilarious movie. Not hilarious, but it's a great movie, and I really like the story a lot in this one. This one and Band Together are pretty close, although I think Band Together may be a little better, but I don't know. This one is really close. It's kind of nostalgic too, but it's overall a pretty good movie with, of course, some great songs in it. Penguins of Madagascar. This one's a really great one too. Obviously, it's not as good as the third movie, but I feel like a movie done with the penguins just works because they're very interesting characters. Although they are very, like, what's the word? They have to have more than one personality, I should say, in this movie, opposed to the original, where they're very, like, maybe one-dimensional, but it just really works well, I guess, in a way, for the movie. So now they have to have all these emotions in this movie to make it feel more like, a movie. But it doesn't bother me at all. And it's a little more slower paced for a Penguins movie too, but you know what? I think it works really well. And once again, the characters we get in this movie are pretty good. It's just not it's not in my top 5, but I'll give it honorable mentions. Home. I can already feel people hitting that dislike and unsubscribe button, but you know what? This is another one of those ones where it's just a personal hot take, because I think this movie is extremely underappreciated. Yeah, it may be a little silly and all, maybe a little more kiddish than some of the other DreamWorks movies, but it does tell a good story, and the characters that we meet in this movie are pretty interesting. Yeah, it's not one of my absolute favorites, but you know what? I think it's overall a decent DreamWorks movie. I don't understand the hate for this one. Boss Baby. Oh man, now I can really hear that dislike bell, or dislike button going, and really that unsubscribe button. Once again, this is just another hot take. I know this one is not well loved by many. I've seen a lot of DreamWorks rankings and stuff, and this was usually lower on the list, along with Home and the Trolls movies. So a lot of these are just a lot of hot takes. Like I said, I've only seen about like 25% of the DreamWorks movies. So I haven't seen Kung Fu Panda much, or How to Train Your Dragon. So, I mean, I was watching these ones when I was a kid, and personally, once again, I think this movie is pretty good. Yeah, it does have some corny scenes, some cringe-worthy scenes, but it's not that bad. It has been a minute since I've seen this movie, though. I wouldn't mind rewatching it again. This one is definitely a lot better, though, than the sequel that came out whenever that was. That sequel is just so boring in comparison. There isn't really much to it, and it just feels kind of like a last-minute thing, I guess. This one, at least, is good, and it's good enough to get honorable mentions from me. So don't worry, number one isn't going to be a hot take. I know, I've had a lot of hot takes, but don't worry. Number one will not be a hot take. So yeah, this is all of the honorable mentions. So with that, let's get to my number one. And my number one favorite DreamWorks movie is Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Man, oh man, this movie is really good. And I mean really, really good. So, like a lot of these other movies, I haven't seen the original Puss in Boots movie. I just thought I was like, the one character from the Shrek franchise, it doesn't seem that interesting. But, man, when I remember watching this the first time in the theaters, and I was just blown away by how good it was and how interesting it was. I thought it was just going to be kind of like, alright, let's see the sequel to this already just fine movie. But, man, they really did a lot with this sequel, and a lot was done right. Let's see. So, for this story, it focuses on Puss in Boots' last life, because he used up all 8 of his lives, and he's down to his last 9th one. So we have this definitely creepy villain named Death, literal Death himself. Okay. Who keeps tormenting Puss in Boots throughout the movie. And obviously, as we know, Puss in Boots fears nothing. But this is one thing he does fear. And it definitely leads to a very, dark villain. But in a, not in a way that we're there to hate him, but just man, they did a really great job with the villain, and I really like him. I think he's a great character. So all of a sudden, I don't know what happened, but now they're in this random area where they have to get, if they get to this center or something, then they can get a wish. And Puss in Boots obviously wants to get his lives back. He's also joined by Kitty Softpaws from the original movie. I don't remember what she wants. I think it has something to do with wanting Puss in Boots back, because I guess they were a thing in the original, or something like that. And then, of course, the character who stole the movie, let's just be for real, good old Perrito. He is adorable. I love Perrito. And I feel like he's 75% of the reason why this movie is my favorite DreamWorks movie. There's a lot of other great characters, too. Like Jack Horner, I think, is another just hilarious villain. He's kind of that comic relief character in a way, but he's also bad. But he can also be a comic relief character. Then there's, of course, Goldilocks and the Three Bears, who also have their fun moments as well. And even though I guess they're kind of the antagonist at the beginning of the movie, they end up helping the heroes out at the end to defeat the true bad guy, Jack Horner. Okay. They have some great family moments too, and you can tell these are characters that aren't necessarily bad, per se, unlike Jack Horner, but they also, they want what they want, but they're also just, what's the word? I guess complex. That's a good word to describe them. They're very complex. Goldilocks wants the wish to have a true family. So, of course, this makes all the bears sad and stuff. Well, except for Baby Bear, because I guess her and Baby Bear fight all the time. But then as time goes on, she realizes she doesn't need the wish. And everyone doesn't need a wish. Now, of course, we save the best character for last, Perrito. Man, oh man. Remember how I talked about earlier in this video where usually the sidekick character is usually can usually be a little annoying or obnoxious, or just a little bit of a screen hogger in a way, almost kind of like Mater from Cars. And I don't hate Mater, but I know he definitely is a disliked character because of the fact that he is kind of that dim-witted sidekick to Lightning McQueen. And he had his own movie, because why the heck not? But yeah, that's kind of a way you don't really want to do that type of character. But this is how you do this character. Polito first, or I should say, Puss in Boots first meets Polito inside of, I guess, I don't even know what you want to call it, his new house, because now he's going to act like a normal kitten. And Polito wants to act like a kitten too, just to get free food, which is kind of hilarious. Polito has another very complex character because he has so many personalities rolled into one. Because he can be silly and he can also be a little dim-witted, but he also is like there for you when you need help, if you know what I mean. Because he wants to be a therapy dog, which is interesting. And of course, Puss in Boots is not interested at all at first. But then, of course, the iconic scene of the movie when Puss in Boots is having that heart attack, I guess if you want to call it that. Polito comes by and doesn't do anything, doesn't say anything, oh, not much at least. And all he does is just rests his head on Puss in Boots, and Puss in Boots calms down. It's just such a touching moment of the film, and it's just, oh, so cute. And then Puss in Boots rubs Polito on the head, and he feels better. So Polito is doing his job already without even needing that wish. Being a therapy dog, which I guess that's kind of what his wish is, to have friends and stuff. But he also doesn't really want to use the wish because he just is always happy and is just like, you know what, Puss in Boots and Kitty Softpaws are my friends. He doesn't even care about the wish, which is just so hilarious. And it's funny how he's basically the complete opposite of Death the villain. Literally complete opposites. Also, we can't forget about Polito's backstory, where he was dropped in a river in a sock while playing hide and seek with his, I guess, family. Oof, that is definitely a very heartbreaking backstory. But Polito doesn't really care. He just is trying to he's making, I guess, the best of it, and it's just, I don't know, it's just so like sad but funny in a way, if you know what I mean, because we all feel for him because he's adorable, but then at the same time he's just making it a joke. But it just works so well, and that's why Polito is just such a great character. Everyone loves him. Like, he's not a screen hogger, but personally, like, he's such a great character, I don't mind him being on screen. Plus, he's just, like, super adorable as well. Like, Polito is 100%. I know I said 75, but I think he's 100% the reason why this movie is so great. But not even that. The story is just so well, and the graphics obviously are way better than the original. It's just overall a really, really good DreamWorks movie, and I cannot wait to see what Shrek 5 goes for with all of this. If we're going to get Polito in it, then maybe Shrek 5 will be the best movie. Who knows? But if we get more Polito, please, from every DreamWorks fan, from every Polito fan, I should say, because there is a lot of Polito fans. But it makes sense, you know, because he's such a great character. He's so cute, he's adorable, and I'm not even talking about Puss in Boots anymore. I'm just talking about Polito, just because he's such an interesting and great character. But yeah, overall, Puss in Boots 2, The Last Wish is easily, without a doubt, in my opinion, the absolute best DreamWorks movie, and probably will be the best DreamWorks movie, unless if they make a movie that's even better yet. But like I said, even though some of the franchises like Disney have been going downhill, this is what, 2022, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, and it's a really, really good movie. Like, it's done really well. And this is, I guess it's a sequel, but you know what, I don't care. It's done so well, it doesn't even feel like it's a sequel. It feels like it's its own thing, and I really like it. The characters are great, the story is really great. Polito steals the movie, let's be real here. He steals the movie. I could care less about Puss in Boots and Kitty Softpaws. Polito is the one who I'm here to see. And I feel like he stole the hearts of many when people saw this movie. But Yeah, in my opinion, this is probably, not probably, this is definitely my favorite DreamWorks movie. So, man, it was fun going down memory lane and seeing some of these fun DreamWorks movies. Hope you all enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time. Adios.